Hello and welcome to On the Record, a debate-style television talk show where Bahamians will find the balanced, true and open debate they've been looking for. The Fourth Estate plays a crucial role in the development of any country. They are the watchdogs of democracy, the fact checkers, and the scribes of daily news. In short, members of the media have a bird's eye view of the country in a way that is unique to the profession. As we prepare to bid the old year farewell and welcome in a new year, we have assembled an esteemed panel of journalists to share in our recap of 2018. We are going to take a look at some of the biggest stories of the year, discuss the changing role of the media in a world where social media has become the go-to source for information. And of course, no discussion about the old year is complete without looking forward to the new year. Tonight, we go on the other side of the lens as the media speaks. I'm your host, Jerome Sawyer. Our discussion begins on the other side of this break.
On the Record is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
Christmas wishes. What if they all just worked?
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart believe. From now on, our troubles will be out of sight. Believe, oh yeah. Here we are as in olden days. Happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who believe in us, gather near to us once more.
We work all year round to help entire communities to flourish. Together, let's bring some light into our lives. Alive, believe, invest.
Hi, I'm here to tell you about the fastest way to purchase the vehicle you want right from home. With SBT Japan, we import used cars from Japan straight to you. Car ownership doesn't have to be hard. Go to sbtjapan.com and sign up for free. Search for the car you want. Place your order and make a payment using any one of our convenient payment options. Once you pay the duty and tax to our in-house broker, we will clear the vehicle and even deliver it straight to your home. Sounds too easy? Well, shouldn't it be?
For a journalist, no 2 days on the job are ever alike. There is always something new to report, a new element to an ongoing story, something breaking or simply coming to an end. It's a perpetual cycle of constantly gathering, dissecting, and disseminating information. My guests are all too familiar with that life. I am so very happy to welcome Janelle Noel Ferguson, senior reporter and editor with Eyewitness News. Kyle Waukane, no stranger to you all here. He's the news anchor and reporter here at Our News. And Rogan Smith, co-host of Ed Fields Live and a Punch columnist. Welcome.
Hey.
I am so excited to have you all here. I've been looking forward to this show literally all year.
Yeah.
No disrespect to any of my other shows, but y'all my people.
Yes.
So we have a relaxed set and we're going to kick back this evening and have a great talk. I thought it important, though, to bring you on so that people get a better understanding of what we do as journalists, the struggles that we face, but also understanding, too, that we are human beings and we see things, and I guess we have our own take on what happens in the news. Our job, obviously, is to be, objective and non-biased, but certainly we have our opinions about things. So, Janae, I'm going to start with you. You guys are the new kids on the block. You entered Eyewitness News, entered the market this year with a bang, I must say. You came on punching. What was it like?
Jerome, that was obviously the objective for us to come out, break barriers, break the standard, break the status quo of media in the country. And for me personally, it's been really and truly a whirlwind experience. Having worked in both the private and public sector in media in the country, it put me at a point where I said, what can we do next? What can we do to push the envelope to be different? And I think a huge part of that for us was incorporating a lot of our live elements, taking the news to the people as it happens, when it happens, as opposed to waiting on a newscast, waiting on an update. You're there when it happens, as are we, and you get to feel and experience what journalists go through. And I think now everybody is so consumed by news in the country, especially with social media. Everybody wants to tell the story and tell it first. And we wanted to capitalize on that element. And I think that has been one of our major success in entering this market and breaking the mold from mainstream media here in the Bahamas.
And you guys are doing a good job. I mean, people talk about it, and congratulations.
Thank
It's
you so
hard,
much.
you know, it's hard being a startup because you've got a legacy like a ZNS. You've got a powerhouse like an R News. You've got, you know, JCN and Jones. They've been around for a while. You've got the newspapers that have been there for a while. So you guys really had it. And congratulations to you. I remember I was at ZNS when you started,
You were,
and
Jerome.
I take
Jerome,
great pride.
You were, and you took me in that radio newsroom and said, read it over. And so I thank you for that, Jerome. And
So-
obviously, persons like you in mainstream media who have helped me to hone my skills. And every day it's a learning experience. Every day you go back and you say, how can would I have been able to do it better? What more could I have gotten out of that story? And I think for journalists, that doesn't stop. You never reach that pinnacle in media. You always want to go and do more and push.
Most definitely. Kyle Walking, you have become a fixture now on Our News.
4 years
I remember when you started too. You know, he sent me an email. He wanted to be, I don't remember, I wanted to be
when
an
I was in,
intern.
COB.
I
didn't know what I
and
wanted
look
to
at
do.
him now. You know, I still knock him upside his head. He does something say, get her. But seriously, for you guys, you have had, you've got now somebody else, another station that's on, you know, that's in the market, that's on the scene. And competition always makes for a better product, I find, at the end of the day. And I noticed that everybody sort of sat up and took note and sort of reassessed and reevaluated and even changed some things, which I think is a good thing. So what has it been like for you having another now station enter the market?
Well, Jerome, again, welcome to Eyewitness. But competition is always healthy. You know, it definitely pushed us to be better than we were. We set the bar, I think, and we take pride in delivering accurate information and being the best, in my opinion.
Wow.
We'll talk about that later.
Our News and the Nassau Guardian, we do welcome you as competition, but we're going to keep doing our thing, and we're going to definitely keep trying to be as good as we can.
Yeah.
Rogan, it is, I mean, and you know this from your years of being on the beat, you know, when I started, there was ZNS, Guardian, and Tribune, and I've watched that grow, and now you've got these crowded press conferences,
Yes.
and people are jockeying for the story, but, you know, talk about what is it like now when you've got competition and you're all covering the same story. How do you make it different, better, you know, and what drives you to beat that guy or that girl who's in the room next to you? You're all cool.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know, at the end of the day,
Nobody want to get scooped.
Right? And even before I get to that, I want to also welcome Eyewitness News. This is a camaraderie, a
you.
fraternity.
Yes.
You know, and like I said, I think I said previously, you know, they've been a disruptor on the scene for media, and they've done a fantastic job of getting from behind the desk and getting into the community, and people feel that, so that's incredible. Yes, we are friends when we're out in the field, but at the end of the day, we don't want to get scooped. And I think it's very important for journalists to go beyond that story that's in front of them. A lot of times we kind of get sidetracked and say, okay, this is the story and that's it, but there are always side stories that you can get. You can always pull officials aside. You can always follow up on a tip or a lead. And so it's very important to differentiate your product, because if we're for example, if the government is talking about purchasing a hotel and everybody's going with that same lead, then what differentiates Our News from JCN, from Eyewitness News? You have to find a different angle. So you have to have that intellectual curiosity, and you have to have that drive to want to give a different product.
I want to begin now to narrow the discussion a bit and talk about, you know, the year in news. This is kind of our review, but want to talk about what was that aha moment for you in news this year, that one story or occurrence that caused you to sit up and really sort of scratch your head in some instances and go, well, what just happened here?
Jerome, I mean, I don't even know where to start at this point, but one that stands out for me has certainly been the fallout of the Oban deal this year. It really caused me to pause and say, did this just happen? Not just as a journalist to say, you know, you're covering a story, but for me, the issue went even further. Because here is an established country that is supposed to have certain protocols in place, and then you have someone come in, you're not who you say you are, you forge someone's signature, and you leave not just government, whatever government, but the country looking like boo-boo the fool. Where do we put ourselves? How do we look on an international market to allow someone to come in and ultimately commit fraud?
And what my question in all of that was, what did they or who did they think we were, or who did they think they were dealing with to even attempt to do something like that?
And it really caused me to pause and say, oh my God, you know, look at us.
What have we come to?
You
Kyle,
know,
what was your
piggybacking
moment?
off what Janaea said with the Oban issue, this is where real investigative journalism comes in. I don't think people understand how we figured out that there was a forged signature.
Right.
Because we did not know it was a ceremonial signing. Until
They didn't say that up front.
They didn't say that.
Yeah, okay.
Information was in there.
One Friday in the National Guardian newsroom, Roseanne O'Deal, our video editor, and Travis Cartwright-Carroll, one of our Guardian newspaper reporters, we were sitting there one Friday. You know how it is, Fridays in the newsroom. You're just trying to find a story just to make it through Friday. And we were sitting there. We said, you know what? You know, it'd be funny if this man didn't sign his own name. And we
Just said that.
we just said that. And then we said, you know what? Pull it up, Ross. Pull it up. And we looked at it. And we said, Ross, could you flip that over? And he flipped it over. Peter Krieger is a P and a K.
Yes.
Sack Balduna is an S and a D. When he flipped it over, we saw S and a D. But you're Peter Krieger.
Right.
We said, oh my God, this man signed someone else's name.
Exactly.
Sitting next to the Prime Minister. That was, in my opinion, the biggest story of the year. And that thing blew up. I mean, we could have never imagined that it would have been the story that it was today.
What even stood out more for me was interviewing Satpal after that and him confirming that he had no knowledge that someone was signing on his behalf.
That was before or after the ceremony?
This was after the ceremonial signing when they were in the town meeting phase and we got an opportunity to interview him. And he said, I knew nothing of this ceremonial signing. I was like, oh my God, who do you people think we are?
It definitely was a scratch my head moment too. I mean, definitely, because I just couldn't understand the whole process, the fact that I just felt like this company hadn't even been vetted properly.
Yeah.
I remember when I first heard of Oban, like my initial inclination, even if I meet someone new, is to go and Google them and see what they're about. And I found very minimal information. I'm searching Bloomberg, I'm searching all these different places. I can't find anything. And so that just gets your spidey senses tingling. And then I think about the clause that says, even regardless of what the environmental impact assessment report says, they could still proceed with this project. And that bothers me.
Yeah.
We're one of the most vulnerable nations on the planet, and we're talking about having an oil refinery in Grand Bahama that's going to be emitting the most toxic pollutants into the environment, and we don't care what the EIA says. The whole deal just really, it didn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
There are lots of red
I heard
flags.
the
and
figure, this $5 billion. I'm like,
$5.5
come on.
billion.
From that figure was released, it drew a red flag. for
Red
me.
flags.
Yeah.
Well, a couple things here. What's interesting is that you mentioned, Kyle, that technology
Yes.
was able to help us. And I'm sitting here thinking, 10 years ago, we would never have figured this out.
Never.
And
You wouldn't have known.
I always say to people that, particularly in our line of work, technology has really helped to propel journalism, as most other things, to an entirely different level. Had you guys not done that, we probably would have never had this discussion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Now, beyond that, was that the catalyst to, you think, a lot of other things that started going wrong for this government? I mean, this has been, if I can liken it to a plane ride, a very turbulent year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, what do you think would have been the residuals and the spin-offs as a result of that? Because that, for me, I think shook the confidence
Yes.
of the
Definitely.
public
Definitely, yeah.
in government, and it shook the confidence of some key people, and not just from a political standpoint, but you have people who have been serving in government for decades. Why didn't they catch this?
Right.
Exactly.
I think it was such a major faux pas that it really started to make people scrutinize the Minnis administration even more. You know, we depend on our governments to get it right, to do the proper vetting, not to depend on the media to do its job. And so now it's like, okay, so this OBAN deal would have gone through had the media not been scrutinizing this project. What else are you guys doing? And so it does shake the confidence of the population, and now they're going to be having intense scrutiny on the government for any deal that it signs moving forward because of that OBAN deal, and I think that's going to continue in the years to come.
I think it was 2 weeks after that happened, and some weeks after they would have made the announcement that they made some missteps about this deal.
Yes.
And there was another contract signing, I think, for some marina development in a family island, and then for government officials to sit there and joke and say, "Oh no, we get it right this time."
No, it's no laughing
Distasteful?
Like, what?
Yeah, it's no
What is
laughing
going on? So
matter.
it's like even though you made the mistake, still take the matter seriously, because at the end of the day, especially for a government, perception is everything.
I think what bothered a lot of people with the situation was this happened in the office of the Prime Minister. This happened in the highest office in our land. This guy was sitting right next to the Prime Minister. Someone had to have seen that Peter Gruyere signed Satpal Duna on that form.
But all of them knew, from what I understand now, all of them knew that this was only ceremonial. So
But we
did
would've
it
never
even?
known.
But did it even matter for them at that point?
Yeah.
Because according to them, this was the real contract was already inked.
I was going to just take a different perspective and say, you know, I know it must be incredibly tough for the Minnis administration, as it is for any government, when they're in a position where they want to provide jobs for a population, particularly in Grand Bahama, that has been in the doldrums for years, year after year, battered by hurricanes, and just there are people who are hungry for development, they're hungry for opportunities, and so that does play a role. But in doing that, the government still needs to be very careful and properly vet things, because you don't want a situation like this to persist.
And we cannot appear to be that desperate.
Yeah.
Good
Regardless of the
point.
situation.
I-
We can't, you know,
Yeah.
we can't.
I want to use that
You want the right
as a
deal.
segue to when we come back from the break, because we've got another story out of Grand Bahama this year that got quite a bit of attention that I want us to talk about. But stay with us. We'll take a quick break and come back with more On the Record right after this.
With the rising trend in crime, ABC Security Systems has a broad range of products that will ensure you have peace of mind. We cater to residential and commercial, offering the best in burglar alarm systems, CCTV with digital video recorders, access systems, electronic gate kits, and LED lighting. We also carry smoke detectors, sprinkler monitoring systems, solar panels, and much more. Our elite team is always here to ensure your property is safe. We're located Marathon Road. ABC Security Systems, the tightest security for your dollar.
Look at you all. Look at Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, man.
Oh, why can't this internet work any faster?
I hear that.
Introducing the new Rev Triple Play with free HBO Go. 200% faster internet and unlimited calling everywhere you go. Sign up for only $99 and enter to win over $50,000 in cash and prizes. Rev, you and us together.
This portion of On the Record is brought to you by Generali Insurance Company Limited, your employee benefits specialists.
This year, the FNM government watched the clock tick by on its first year of governance. And what a year it's been for them. The increase in value-added tax, the OBAN deal, the sale of the Grand Lucayan, and the dismissal of several parliamentary secretaries. And then there was the tragic Exuma explosion, the removal of the shanty towns, and all the industrial unrest that hung over the workforce. My guests have helped to share those stories with you in various ways. Janelle Noel Ferguson, reporter and senior reporter and editor with Eyewitness News, Kyle Walkin, our news anchor, and Rogan Smith, co-host of Edfield's Live and Punch columnist. We would have I would have given folks sort of a snapshot of some of the biggest things that happened. The sale of the Grand Lucayan was another hot button issue this year. I want to start with you. In 1992, when the FNM government came to office, then Prime Minister Hubert Ingraham divested the government of all the government-owned hotels, dismantled the Hotel Corporation in many respects. And here it is now, we're back at government purchasing a major hotel. It was like a lightning rod through the community.
Obviously, lots of Bahamians remember those times, and they don't like the government owning a lot of things, and hotels are one of them. I have a different perspective because I honestly did not have a problem with them purchasing the hotel because I understood why they were doing it. The government does not want to own a hotel. Denisio de Aguilar has said that a million times. They do not want to. Their objective is to purchase it and sell it as fast as they can. They want to ensure that thousands, or nearly 1,000 folks who are out of jobs have jobs, and that area does not die in Grand Bahama. A lot of people have grown to depend on that. They didn't want it to fall into the same state as the Royal Oasis and many other properties. And so I understood why they did, and I still understand why it was a lightning rod issue, but I just have a different take on it.
Carl, was it that people just didn't understand what was happening?
I don't think that was the case. I think people understood that, hey, the previous government could not find a buyer for this. Before, you roll on in, and now you have, I think they said, 10 potential buyers. Where did these buyers come from? Are we actually going to make a profit? Are we going to break even? Are we going to lose millions and millions of dollars? Because you clearly have to invest money into this. How much is the Bahamas going to lose from you purchasing this hotel? I think that's the big issue for a lot of people.
When I went into Grand Bahama, a taxi cab driver said to me, he said, Mr. Sawyer, it was like a loaded gun at the government's head. And I found it was very interesting what the people of Grand Bahama had to say about it. And I always say that, you know, we sit in Nassau and we make all these judgments and calls about things on family islands. But, you know, you have that Grand Bahama perspective as well. What was your take?
Jerome, like you said, I'm originally from Grand Bahama, and so I understand the situation many residents there face. Many of them have not been able to work for years. Many of them, like myself, have had to relocate to Nassau for employment. And they're separated from their families. They want to go back home. And government is saying, now, this is my opportunity. But is this the best decision? Government is saying, this is our only option. But everyone in government is also saying, this is a bad idea. So if you're telling me straight out the bat that this is a bad idea, yes, we have buyers lined up. But at the same time, we have to spend $65 million and additional millions to reinvest into this property, to reinvest. As a Grand Bahamian, I'm looking at the matter, when will I be able to work? Is it going to be the end of this year? Because I know the hotel is not going to be able to open in December. So I'll have to wait another 6 months when, hopefully, to catch the summer market for that influx of tourists. Is the hotel going to be operational by then? Because I'm hearing at this point, the employees have not gotten their separation packages as yet. So that, to me, pushes the timeline even further. Will I miss that summer market for opening then? Will it open maybe in September for a fall market? So as a Grand Bahamian who's waiting on employment, this is another year I'm out of work. How long do I have to wait until this resort opens? Will I have to wait until the next election for this to be a promise or a delivery? 6 months before an election, before I'm able to provide for my family, for a Grand Bahamian, for the father and mother who's not able to provide right now? How does this impact me?
It's a case of you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But I'd want to know, if the government didn't purchase it, what would be the alternative?
And it's a
I
catch-22.
think that's what's scary
it's
in some respects. If
catch-22.
that hotel had closed, what would have happened to those people who work there?
The people, and then too, the people who are working there, you already have a resort that is operational. A hotel is open there.
Right.
The what is it?
Pelican.
Not Pelican Bay.
Oh.
Lighthouse.
Oh, Lighthouse. Yeah, Lighthouse
so
is open
persons
on the
are
property.
employed at Lighthouse.
Yeah,
They said about 400, and about 200 want to separate from the company. They want to leave.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So what does that say?
Well, I think too, this would have come, the purchase of, I think if it were an isolated situation, where our government sort of found its back against the wall and, hey, we have to purchase this to save jobs, to keep the economy afloat in some way. it would have probably been a little bit more palatable. But it came right after the increase in value-added tax. And I think it sort of threw gas onto the fire.
Yeah, speaking of the increase in value-added tax, I remember sitting in Parliament that day when the Deputy Prime Minister was giving the announcement, and two things stood out to me. I was live tweeting as that was happening, and he went on with the exemptions. Oh, you won't have to pay free this, free that, and people were retweeting and liking. Yeah. And then the minute I said value-added tax was increasing, I was like, what? Oh, minutes do this to us, minutes swing this, blah, blah, blah.
There was a deafening silence in the House. And even like some House members said they were not even aware that this was coming. Everybody just went, oh my God, we just had an increase in VAT, what, 2-3 years ago? Where is
Well,
this
the
coming
introduction.
from?
The introduction, yeah.
I think it was a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people, particularly coming from the Minnis administration, because they had campaigned so vehemently against it when they were in opposition. So it was like, okay, so you said all of this when you're in opposition, and now you're increasing it on, increasing the burden for Bahamians. Again, I understood why they did it. I'm not an apologist for the Minnis administration, but I try to look at things in totality. But it was just difficult because of who it was, and I think that's why it's so important for politicians to be very careful about the pronouncements that they make when they're outside of Parliament.
What I found, what I think is happening is a lot of the promises made on the campaign trail and a lot of the expectations are now coming back to haunt the administration.
And I think for a lot of, how do you put this without getting in trouble?
Come on, it's the end of the year. People enjoying Christmas now. Go ahead, go for it.
You have a lot of FNM supporters who loved us when the Christie administration was in power.
Us meaning the media.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
They absolutely loved us. 19 months later, we would have calls into the newsroom. Oh, you should go jump off the bridge. You shouldn't be running behind the Prime Minister doing this and doing that. But
All
I'm just
hail
doing my
the
job.
king.
Yeah.
Now crucify him.
Am I supposed to be the Prime Minister's public relations tool now that he's in office, or do you want me to do what probably helped him to get elected, and which was investigate, find out the truth.
I asked this a lot of times on this very show of FNM politicians, supporters, etc. Is the FNM still struggling with its public relations? I mean, I say the FNM government.
I think so.
Definitely.
I think so. I think they have not been as clear on a lot of their objectives. Sometimes you hear and you understand the rhyme and reason for being able to make these decisions, but it's still not properly laid out as to, why we have to take these steps. Because then you have to understand you're dealing with politicians who say one thing and then sometimes it turns out to be something totally different.
Really? Politicians do that? Wow.
Like for instance, under the former administration, you heard that, we're introducing VAT, and this should be able to sustain us and help us creep our way out of debt during a certain time frame. And then you see the FNM come in and say, no, we have to increase VAT now because we are in a sinking hole. And so it leaves you in a position, okay, so what did this person say, and was that true? Was that correct?
Who do I believe?
Who do I believe?
But what you have now, the FNM is battling two things. They're battling social media news, and they're battling a very impatient populace.
Right.
You have Bahamians
First-time voters as well.
Yes, you have a lot of Bahamians who saw this new, fresh FNM as, they're going to give us what we need, they're going to help us and deliver it. And they came in 19 months in, we ain't get that yet. What is it? Are you ripping off the Band-Aid to help fix this? And then you have a lot of people who are just putting out a lot of untruths. Some things are true, but you have to decipher the truth and depend on
driving
the news,
a
depend on us
different
and the
kind of
media.
conversation.
And it's hard for them to get their point across.
So I've got to ask you now, we talked about the aha moment. I need to know for you this year, what was the they can't be serious moment? Like when you thought to yourself, they can't be serious. So, Rogan, I'm going to start with you.
3 letters.
Oh boy.
BMC. Bahamas Mortgage Corporation.
Go ahead.
So I'm still at a loss to figure out how it is that someone can move into a home, live there for 15, 20 years, and not pay the first bill.
I need that kind of mortgage.
I need Scotia to hit me up,
I need
right?
that kind of mortgage.
And Jerome, I don't blame the occupant of the home. I blame the Bahamas Mortgage Corporation. Because at the end of the day, you need to safeguard your money. And the minute you
our
see
money.
Our money.
Yeah.
You're right, our money. You're dealing with a different type of clientele. No offense to anybody, but you're dealing with a different type of clientele. You need to make sure that you're doing salary deduction, mandated salary deduction. You cannot allow someone to be in a house for a month and if they're not paying you, you need to be following up on that. How is it that someone can stay in the house for 15 years? The place is insolvent. I think it's nearly 50% of homeowners have defaulted.
Yeah.
I mean, these are ridiculous figures. Almost $200 million owed to the BMC. How is that allowed to persist? So I've always known that it had challenges, but to see it laid out by the government this year just blew my mind.
And I have to say this, my moment with that was when you saw people saying, oh, they should give them more time.
No. I can't.
That was my, are you all serious?
You want me? What's more time? And that's why I get upset too when I hear politicians saying, oh, you're being insensitive. What are you talking about? There's personal responsibility. You cannot sit in someone's home, because it's not your home yet, you haven't purchased it, for 15 years and not paying. You say the government is being unfair to that individual? We have to get real.
Yeah.
Good. They can't be serious moment.
My moment was more so recent. The Minister of National Security, Marvin Dames, the plane crash, when he came out and said that, the missing pilot, Byron Ferguson, didn't file a flight plan. That was beyond insensitive for me. And I wholeheartedly...
Why was it?
I wholeheartedly agreed with the family that, are you trying to explain that perhaps that we didn't look for him the way we should have because he didn't file a flight plan?
And he had one.
Yeah, it turns out that he had one. You, as a minister of the government, should not, even if you're not sure, if you're positive, still don't come out and make that statement.
The timing was bad.
The timing was horrible because he had to come out hours later and apologize for making the statement because he was wrong. It was premature of him, and I was very, very disappointed as a Bahamian, as a young Bahamian, to hear him say that, given that you have a family who is grieving.
I share with you in that. There is a time and a place for everything, and I think at that point, it should have been a situation
it was the
where...
confidence in which he said it.
And then too, it should be a situation... I think it may have come out of the fact that the family was criticizing the crash and what didn't happen or should have happened. And I think, to his defense, I guess he was trying to come to the defense of the people in his ministry, but timing and how he said it.
And if he never flight plan, so what of it?
Yeah, that wasn't the time. It was not the time.
There's a man missing. So what of it?
I agree with you totally. What was your moment this year?
Mine is also more recent, Jerome. I think it has to do with the PM's comments after all of this union uproar. The PM, being a doctor himself, saying, I'm more concerned about whether or not which group, Saxons, is going to win this year.
He should be concerned with that. As a Valley boy. So he should be concerned with that.
He can't be.
All my Saxon friends, man. Now. Go ahead.
This is supposed to be, your people, the doctors. You're supposed to be looking out for them. These are the persons who are saying we are upset, along with so many other unions. The nurses' unions, the junior doctors, the senior physicians.
These are people who are taking care of us, though. Right. That's a scary part.
These are people that take care of us every day.
I have to ask you this, and from watching it, I think he was attempting to
tell a joke.
To tell a joke and probably throw out the question, because I think the reporter said, are you concerned about a national strike? And to be quite honest, when I heard the question, I thought, national strike? I mean, we seem to be a little bit far. So I'm thinking, I try to put myself in his position, God help us, for a minute to think, well, maybe he thought it wasn't the right kind of question and to make light of it. But he...
I found that the Prime Minister has a tendency to do that a lot. I don't quite appreciate the ruse. He makes light of the situation. I wonder if it's because he's uncomfortable answering certain questions. But you know what? Offering up a no comment should suffice. Yes, that may become the story of the day that he's no remaining calm. Fine, but it's better than being insensitive in a situation.
I'm going to say this as we go into the break, and I'm hoping that he and others are listening, that we have a culture now, and this is an issue that I sometimes have with media as well. We have a culture now where we are ambushing people, with questions, etc. And while, hear me out, and while it is our job to get the story at the end of the day, we have to understand, and they have to understand as leaders, that you have to choose when you speak. And when you make yourself susceptible to the press every time they approach you, and it's, every time he walks out, every time there's a mic in his face, and so you make it a situation where you now put yourself in a position where you're constantly answering questions without having the opportunity to think it through and to say, well, maybe not right now, or, I'm not going to discuss it. Now is not the time. But it seems that there is such a familiarity with particularly the Prime Minister. And I by comparison, you watch it, God help us again, Donald Trump. The media is always after him, but at a distance.
Right. Yeah.
And he chooses when he walks
Right,
over
to get
and
close,
gives his statements. And I'm hoping the Prime Minister and others will look at that as a time and place.
Right.
The media will come to you every single solitary day if you allow them to.
Right.
But I would just think that, you know, as individuals of power, you have to determine that destiny and determine when you are going to give these comments.
And to be honest with you, Jerome, personally, I've called up my journalism colleagues and say, listen, I thought that was a little too much.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of ambush journalism, and I believe
I'm
that
not
if
either.
Jerome Sawyer says no comment, I'm going to take it as that,
Yeah.
okay? And I'm going to be respectful and try to get my story some other way or another time. So I think journalists also have to sort of exercise some sort of self-control.
And source and build your sources to say, hey man, I need a response to this. I want to talk to you about this. Da da da. Come on, give me that.
I agree with Rogan on that because I've seen, you know, some of our colleagues at funerals. They want to
It's
ambush,
inappropriate.
you know,
Yeah, inappropriate times. No, we're inappropriate.
And I'm like, it's a funeral.
Yeah.
As journalists too, we also have to be human and understand that there's a time and place for everything. And I think dealing with politicians, be like, you know what? I want to talk to you on the side a little later, maybe tomorrow, about this issue.
Exactly.
But
Let's set up a
I haven't seen you all week, and it's the only time I see you.
And let
but
me
I
tell you
really
why
wanna
I
get-
want this response.
And
The
they
story
will
is big,
respect
man.
you
We need
so
to get
much
yes,
more. And
exactly.
Imagine, I know. I promise you that interview we can talk tomorrow.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, you have to understand and respect that sometimes there is an urgency to get a response from something because you know whenever you have something that's happening and you don't get a response right away, that opens the door to all kinds of rumors, inaccuracies,
But
and
Kyle,
untruth.
and I go back to this. Even sometimes no comment, or we attempted to get a comment, and there was no response. So then the onus is now on the politician to say, you know what, this story is getting out of hand. I need to
I
speak.
appreciate the no comment,
Yeah.
but that no comment won't suffice every time.
But then the onus is then not on. The onus is on them. I gave you the opportunity to speak. You did not, and so I still have to go with my story, even if my story is there is still no comment or so and so remains
If
tight-lipped.
you ran away from me for a whole week and this is my one time to get you, I am going to get you.
Yeah, I'm going to ask.
I'm going to ask.
But if you still choose not to comment, then
That's on you.
fine.
That's
It
on
is
you.
still on you,
That's
and
on
it's and the story then becomes a week later and still no response.
Because you know what happens? The public then says, well, why are reporters ain't ask him this?
Well, that
Or
no,
why-
the
why
onus
are
is
they-
on
why
you
are
to
they-
put in your
why are they
story
asking
that you
that?
did attempt. You know, you do your job. You know, you do your job. Anyway, this was discussion job. So I think you always making on this show. We have more on the media's perspective on the record right after this break.
Hi, I'm here to tell you about the fastest way to purchase the vehicle you want right from home. With SBT Japan, we import used cars from Japan straight to you. Car ownership doesn't have to be hard. Go to sbtjapan.com and sign up for free. Search for the car you want, place your order, and make a payment using any one of our convenient payment options. Once you pay the duty and tax to our in-house broker, we will clear the vehicle and even deliver it straight to your home. Sounds too easy? Well, shouldn't it be?
And welcome back. This year, social media continued to drive a fair amount of the news that the public digested. In fact, we saw more and more instances where it was happening on social media, or what was happening on social media became the news. My guests tonight, Janelle Noel Ferguson, Kyle Walkin, and Rogan Smith. Social media continues to be that force that forces you all. There was no, every pun intended, but forces you all now to pay attention. And what is happening on social media so often is becoming the news, even to the point where people are having to defend rumors and outright lies and all kinds of stuff. And you guys are having to draw from social media.
Right. It's a blessing and a curse, Jerome. Every day you have to sit down and dissect social media before you get to do any type of real work. A rumor, somebody talking about something that happened criminally, and you have to find out from police whether or not this is true. Persons just put any and everything out there, whether it's for political brownie points, whether it's somebody in a car crying saying, oh, I'm gonna do something crazy, and you find out that, oh, it's just a prank.
You're mad with your boyfriend.
You mad with somebody? You're sitting there like, come on, I didn't waste 30 minutes of my life. I ain't gonna never get back trying to follow up on this foolishness. And so, but in some instances, social media has really helped us drive different stories. Some of the best stories, I think, came out of social media where someone put something out there that was true and no one knew about it, and you were forced to make that a story, and it became a story.
But then on the same token, you have a lot of Bahamians who would believe anything on WhatsApp and Facebook before they believe us. Like I have cousins who come to me, oh, is this truth? All day, every day. Any truth to this? And then
How come you all do a story on
How come you all got this on the news? Exactly. And then if I say, no, that's not true, well, y'all just lie on the news anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's become
so it's discrediting.
It is. And it's hard. It's a very hard thing because we only have 350,000 people. But it's like we have millions here because you have to refute so much bad information. Social media was created for networking, for people to stay in contact with their family and friends and to spread good, positive news. But in the Bahamas now, we've made it everywhere. We've made it a tool, whereas we have to badmouth somebody, we have to ruin a life. If there's a car accident and someone's hurt or someone got attacked, you have to pull out the phone. Oh, somebody call an ambulance while I record this, so I can be the first to send it to somebody.
No one's helping that person. You don't know, this person. You could save this person's life using that time.
But you're busy
recording.
recording it. And then WhatsApping it to everybody. Yeah. Rogan, my concern too is that it has brought out the worst in us. I see some of the discourse and the slander and the things we say about each other, and the things that we post on Facebook, and it angers me sometimes that we have, we've allowed the worst part of this to become a part of our fabric.
Absolutely. I mean, it's allowed us to become so incredibly uncivil. I've seen a lack of civility amongst Bahamians as it relates to social media. Once in a while we have those feel-good stories, or when people come together and they really want to make a positive change in this country, and you see that in social media, but that is eclipsed by people sending out videos of dead relatives, murder victims, memes that are not entirely
mean,
flattering.
downright mean.
They're means. I love that. I'm going to use that. They're means now. And it's just so negative. And I think there's a lot of personal responsibility that we bear, Jerome. I say, do not send me any of these things.
Yeah, I say that to people all the time.
Don't send me anybody's dead body. Don't send me anything about who's sleeping with who. I don't want to be a willing participant to that. And I think Bahamians need to literally put yourself in that position. Would you want your mother's body floating around on WhatsApp?
I always say too, it is really given a platform to cowards. Because so many people hide behind these profiles, and they bully people, they talk about you, they say things, and they don't expose or reveal who they really are.
No. Have 5 and 4 different profiles, and they saying one thing under this profile and the next thing under this profile, and pushing various agendas, and they want you to get caught up. For them, I think they sit home all day and this is entertainment.
I often have to see people have jobs.
But it also shows the talent of some Bahamians, because I see some of these movie flyers that they create. I'm like, you could be a holographic artist.
If only we would use our powers for good. You remember that line? If only you would use your powers for good.
Some of the Photoshop skills are incredible.
Yes. Yeah.
Go to school. Get a license.
In that vein, though, is social media now, I know it was a great influence in the last elections, but has it become really that double-edged sword in many instances to politicians and political parties?
I think it has.
Absolutely.
You see time and time again where politicians even stand up in Parliament and say, I was reading this thing on Facebook and I just want to let y'all know that this is not the case. Or even under the former administration when the picture of a parliamentarian sleeping in Parliament went viral, and there was this whole session about sorting out this issue and who had a phone and who could have taken the picture. So it's definitely impacted governance in the country.
But it also showed that politicians have to be very careful of what they say on social media.
In everything.
Exhibit A, Mr. Henfield. The knife wielding in Caesar's Pizza or whatever it is.
Caesar's,
we still have not seen one video of this before or after. Bahamians are saying, we record everything in the Bahamas. We haven't seen one video of this. But you went into detail at length about everything and how you saved so many lives.
I guess this brings me to my question. This year, the FNM will be hitting its 2-year mark in office. There is that growing discontent, and people are angry and upset in many ways, but something we haven't talked about. And I have to, in this context, talk about what is happening with the PLP and what has been the position, in relation to, because they've got a lot of material. People are angry at the FNM and a lot of what the Minister administration is doing. But how is that translating for the PLP?
I don't think they're using the material to their advantage if they want to be a viable opposition. And I think for the opposition right now, they are only using emotive issues that come up, not issues that should be of import and should be able to carry them further if, that's what they're looking to do. It's just, I'm grasping at straws here to see what may or may not catch on.
I actually disagree with that because I think we saw yesterday in Parliament. Yeah, we had the deputy leader of the PLP, Chester Cooper, as well as the English and MP Glenys Hanna Martin. Both of them ripped into the Minister administration yesterday.
How often does that happen?
That's the point.
But they did their job. They did their job yesterday. And you have a party right now. They have the opportunity to bring in a whole lot of new, fresh faces into the fold. But to be honest, and let's be frank here, we're all journalists, a lot of them are sitting back and waiting to see what happens with the leadership of the party.
Exactly.
But I was going to say, I think a lot for the population, I see these little polls would say, if the election were held today, would you vote for this person, that person? I feel like a great majority of Bahamians are still holding the Progressive Liberal Party's past transgressions against them.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Have they shaken off the shackles of what caused them
They have
the
not
election?
shaken off those shackles just yet, and I don't anticipate that they're going to shake that for a while. Delta Bahamians are still upset because even when we look at our financial position in this country, a lot of that is as a result of what transpired with the Progressive Liberal Party. Yes, I saw what transpired in the House of Assembly, but like Janaea said, it doesn't happen often. And I think as a voter, I'm not looking for leadership that just basically ping-pongs or just responds to what's happening, but to give me some fresh, incredible, never heard before ideas as to how we can move this country forward. That's what I'm looking forward to. And so just hearing you, hearing Glenys Hanna Martin or hearing Philip Brave Davis or whomever jump into the fray, that's not enough for me. And I know it's not enough for a lot of voters.
For me, it came off as it's the last sitting of the House. I need to say something sensational. I need a headline. That's what it came off to me, because all year you've been in the House. Where was all of this energy? Where was all of this? I need to hit them at every
when the
point.
people were outside protesting and all kinds of stuff going on.
That's how it came off.
I think the energy was actually there. They didn't say as much as they should have agreed, but the energy was
throughout
there.
the year?
Throughout the year, you had, I think, especially in our news, you had a lot of talk.
So I've got to speak to that elephant in the room. Since we're talking about Parliament, you have your Travis Robinson, who was just missed from his position as a result of the position he took. Your Vaughan Miller, and then you've got Grand Mahama, Frederick McAlpine, who I thought it interesting. Who said, "Yeah, I'm mad, but I'm still an FNM." I thought
you're just mad, he's big mad.
So a couple things here. I mean, people thought that was the beginning of the end when they were dismissed. Reece Shipman would have been dismissed months earlier from his position, and then you have these other, and people thought it was the beginning of the end, but it seems to have fizzled outside of McAlpine
because they realized this administration has about 3-4 more years left in their term. This is not the time to make your move, because even if you do, what happens when it's time to run again?
Exactly.
Right.
Who's going to nominate you?
What's going to happen with Frederick McAlpine?
Well, either he'll stay on and be whatever comes with
a disruptor.
Yes.
Or a disruptor. That's your word today. A disruptor.
I see him possibly starting his own party.
No.
Well, we not have him go. Come on. I mean, we've been down that. Really?
No, people have gone down that road thinking that
it all ended in a ball of flames.
Don't forget now, he has persons that are following behind him. He has a following, and politicians.
Let me give you some examples. CDR, BDM,
I understand that.
DNA.
I understand that. They get this false hope that, I see all these people rallying behind me. They get this false hope that I can do this.
He should ask Brian McCartney, Loretta Butler Turner. Will people rally and they all in your corner
like I say, they get
until it's time?
They get this false hope that this can happen.
I think Frederick McAlpine is going to sit back and watch to see how the administration plays out. If things go uphill.
You think they're going to give him another nomination?
Oh no! I think the sun has set on that one, and I don't think he
I don't think so.
You don't think what? You think they're going to give him the nomination?
If things go well for them and he decides to oh, well, let's rally behind our leader, they're going to be like, okay, well,
Not you.
let's give him another chance. I think they just
don't
may.
think so.
You never know.
I personally don't have a problem. I said this on my show a few weeks ago. I didn't have a problem with Frederick McAlpine making the pronouncements that he made. I felt he was being pretty straight, considering that they had made certain pronouncements when they were in opposition. So it would have looked hypocritical if he had criticized certain elements when they were out and then changed his tone inside. But I realize he's in an organization where you kind of, to some extent, you have to toe the line.
You have to walk the party line. Well, my take on it is a little different, and I wonder whether it is a deepening or changing of democracy in many ways. We've come from a system where, once you're in the party and you're in, you don't speak out. Now, you have to row, privately, and this is unprecedented.
It is.
And I often wonder whether it's by design that the Prime Minister sits back and says, well, be free to speak. Because under other administrations, you get chopped off. Yeah, at the head. And I'm wondering whether this is intentional. And it's sort of a new day in democracy where people are being given the opportunity to oppose publicly.
Yeah, you didn't see that before.
Oh,
and
no.
I think it's refreshing to have them step up and say, you may say this and this may be the policy, but this is not how I feel. This does not represent, as McAlpine often says, does not represent the viewpoint of my constituents.
Right.
He always
That's
speaks
right.
from my constituents, not this decision we made. No, my constituents do not agree with this 12%
Absolutely.
VAT, and I commend him for it.
But then you do have some opportunists, though, some who are headline grabbers who would say anything just to be on the front page of a local daily.
Opportunists really in politics?
Wow. You have a lot of them who would say
you're
anything
right.
just to be on the news.
Agree.
And just to seem as you're that person who stands up for the
Always
people.
opposes.
Yeah.
And I'm the people's man.
And you can tell when they're being genuine and when they're not.
But Janaea, you and I are right here because how many times have we seen politicians stand up in the House of Assembly? Oh, I rise on behalf of the people of Fox Hill or so and so, and you've had no consultation with the people.
to their needs.
You vote on things that are going to hurt your constituents. Your first allegiance or your obligation is to your constituents.
I've seen McAlpine come in with letters from my constituents. This is what we're saying. This is how we're being impacted. This is how this affects us, this decision that the government is making, and we won't stand for it.
Okay, I got to ask you this now. What happened this year, that one thing that you can reflect on that made you really smile and be happy to be Bahamian or feel good about something? Because, we talk a lot about what's wrong. But that one moment where you thought, aha, this is my country. Boy, I'm proud to be Bahamian. I'm happy to do it.
DeAndre Ayton, when he got drafted, number one, Phoenix Suns. I was very, very, very proud. We were happy last year with Buddy Hield, but with DeAndre Ayton, we had a big reason to wave our flags really high, and I was very proud of him as a young man.
For me, my happiest moment came during a tragedy. It was actually seeing Head Knowles and all these wonderful community members come together to search for Byron Ferguson. I really loved that moment.
Yeah, a triumph for a good moment within the tragedy.
Mine also is from a tragedy, but from a different one that we saw this year with the Labor Day tragedy. As sad as that moment was for us as a country, that's when we really saw the efforts of all of the agencies working together to really help one another. It didn't matter who you were, everyone really rallied around to assist.
Good stuff, good stuff. It's always important that we provide that balance, and I think sometimes we miss that. Our final segment is on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
Christmas wishes. What if they all just worked?
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be free. From now on, our troubles will be out of sight. Believe, oh yeah. Here we are as in olden days. Happy golden days of yours. Faithful friends who believe in us, gather near to us once more.
We work all year round to help entire communities to flourish. Together, let's bring some light into our lives. Alive, believe, invest.
Welcome back to On the Record. This is our final show of this season. In a matter of days, we will be on the precipice of a new year. 2019 is all but here. Yes, we are about to enter a new year. I want to use a bit of this segment, though, to talk about what are your predictions and expectations and even estimations for this coming year. This has been a really tough year for the government in terms of trying to move through some programs and quite a bit. But I would have thought, interestingly, the IMF just this week would have brought out a report giving a very favorable view of the economy and the economic situation, which I thought, okay, well, that must be a huge blue tick, you know, for the government. In that, finally something in the win column.
I honestly hope that, you know, we begin to see not only results but a turnaround in the economy, piggybacking off of that response from the IMF, and that people can begin to feel the change. All of this year, last year, you know, you just hear about people just in so much desperation, people not being able to make it, so much, you know, difficult and challenging stories. And even though we've had the increases, I'm hoping that we see the fruits of our labor making these financial changes. We get to see why these decisions were made, because, you know, truth be told, sometimes the hard and fast line is drawn and we're not able to see the end result until later on. So I'm hoping that next year we'll be able to see a lot of those things materialize.
Kyle, you see a turnaround coming?
What I'm interested in is energy. I would hope that we would find a real way to bring electricity costs down.
Yeah, because, you know, I own a layaway plan with UPS. I just tried to put a couple of dollars on to keep the light on.
We've heard it numerous times, but electricity has become a second mortgage for a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of families. I really hope that we would find a way to really utilize renewable energy, bring fuel costs down, just help us as regular Bahamians to save money.
And you know that's impacting every sector of our lives, the cost of doing business, everything, electricity. Yeah, Rogan?
No, that's the most expensive thing for most businesses and for, of course, Bahamians. In the new year, I'm cautiously optimistic. I did read the IMF report and I was happy with that, but I'm still a little guarded. I want to see how things progress coming in the new year. I hope that Bahamians continue with this level of agitation that they've done. You know, one of the things I've always complained about is the fact that we're very docile as a people, very passive. And so I do want people to read more and to be engaged more in watching how our government operates and how our economy turns around. I think this year, one of the things that I noticed was Bahamians were more engaged when it comes to the economy, particularly when it comes to, and I think that led to that. Now people are watching their finances and are saying, okay, why are we raising this rate? Why are we doing these things? A lot of times we were focused on crime and politics, and now the economy is taken center stage.
Interesting you say that. I mean, crime, I think, has been the good story for the year. It's gone down, and kudos to the minister and his team for that. I mean, do you know, has that given us a false hope in some senses, or is it?
The fear of crime is not down, in my opinion. I heard that echoed, but it's, in my opinion, it's not down. I'm still afraid when I'm leaving the gym in the night.
I don't have a bodyguard, so I'm very afraid.
We don't have the statistics out yet, but you see in the crime reports every day on armed robbery, 4 and 5 murders.
Well, this month is going to be pretty crazy because it's December.
Even though you don't have the hard-pressed criminals going out there on these retaliation shootings, I'm still afraid when I'm going about my day-to-day life. That's more scary than anything else. I know I'm not involved in any nefarious activity for someone to actively be after
but you just never know.
Just to live and be doing my regular day-to-day
business. Get caught in the crossfire.
And I don't think it's that there's no longer the fear of crime. I think what has happened is people have become desensitized to crime.
That is true.
You know, I'm seeing murders and I'm like, ho-hum
now.
Yeah,
you sort of flip past somebody. You look to see if it's anyone you know, and if not, you just sort of, you glaze over. And really, I'm glad you brought that up too. From a news perspective, I mean, you know, I remember when you had, you know, 20, 30 murders a year.
I remember.
And that was a big deal. But now, you're in triple digits. And, you know, from your perspective in covering that, what is that like every day when you're like, okay, another murder? And it used to be a murder, that was the lead story, you were sure of that, but now it's like, okay, what else is going on?
Now you don't even respond the same way when you hear that it's a murder. Before time, you used to race out in the newsroom. Now it's like, man, the body can be there a little while, we can get there.
Go get the footage.
Yeah, go get the footage. You respond differently because it's the same rhyme and rhythm every time, and then the police give you the same statements every time. So it is
Ongoing
not,
investigations.
But because it's so frequent nowadays, you just don't know. You always have that fear as a reporter. Is this someone I know? Is this a family member?
not
is
as
it a
scary.
friend? You're nervous about it.
It's almost as if it has to be an extreme case in order to get my attention now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't even want to say what I would think would have to happen, but you just think about the absolute
Oh,
worst
yeah.
that would happen.
Yeah.
That would be the one thing that would probably get my attention. But as I'm not in mainstream media like that anymore, but I remember that was one of the reasons I had to get out. I remember the last murder scene I was on was Kurt McCartney's murder, and I said, I just can't do this anymore. This isn't even healthy for my spirit to be coming out here 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever, for a murder.
Interesting. Now, a little bit more. This is where we get a little bit more fun. Now, I want you to fast forward to December of 2019. What are you looking forward to? A year from now, when you sit on this couch. So that's an open invitation. All right. A year from now, when you sit on this couch, what would you like to have happened, or what would you like to have seen happen within that year?
I'll take it back to my roots. I want to see more for the people of Grand Mama. I want to see those jobs come about. I want to have the option to return home. That's what I'm hoping.
Eyewitness News in Grand Mama.
Yes.
You want to run that office. There you go.
Yeah,
hopefully your boss listening. So that's what you like. Kyle,
Well,
what
since
about
we
you?
talking about the roots, I want to see a lot happen for Family Islanders. We forget about them a lot of the times, and I want to see things happen for people of Long Island, Exuma, Acklands. I want to see their airports fixed. I want to see their mailboats fixed. I don't want them to have to depend on getting physical mail anymore. I want them to live comfortably and happily, just as we do here in New Providence. So that, I mean, it's far-fetched, but
No,
I would like
it's
to see
not
that
that
happen in
far-fetched.
2019.
I think it's a reasonable request. Yeah.
This is more on a personal note. I want to see a greater level of civility next year amongst Bahamians. I want to see more Bahamians employed. I think it's very important. I have a job. We all have jobs, and we know how much we appreciate that. But I know there are lots of Bahamians who are still going through it. And so next year, I hope things really turn around so that our brothers and sisters can take care of themselves and their families.
Good stuff. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about our colleagues in the media and what, would you, and Janae, I see you sighing, this is a good time for us to talk about how we can clean up our own acts because, I'm still passionate about what I see go on with my colleagues, and a lot of times I'm disappointed with the level of reporting, the laziness, the inaccurate reporting, a lot of things that I think we should be doing better. So I want to just sort of, if you could speak to what do we need to do as an industry and as industry leaders to really not just make our craft better, but have a greater impact on the society.
I think, Jerome, it boils down to just being more resourceful. Stop relying so much on the same set and type of people for
The
your
same 5 people
information.
we interviewing over and over.
And you see these people every day on the news. I really want us
And
to,
in the paper. It's
to
tiring.
take it a little further.
Yeah.
There are so many
Younger
other
people who
you
have
can
perspectives.
talk to
Yes,
and get
yes.
ideas from. And I don't know, for some reason we look at young people and we don't see them as credible, or we don't see them as someone who would have, an excellent idea to improve, our living conditions or our way of life. I want us to go that extra mile to seek out those people who we, quite frankly, take for granted.
Good stuff. I like that.
Now, I know hard and bad news sells, but I believe we should try and search out more positive stories.
Yes, sir.
We need stories that make us excited to watch the news, that make us feel good watching the news.
Feel good about who we are as a people.
As a people,
Yeah.
I would really like to see that more from journalists, us.
Good
It
stuff.
starts with us, Janae.
It does.
I
It
agree
does
with
start
you.
with us.
Rogan, I would like for you to harass me less on social media. That's what I would like. That's my
That's
personal.
granted for 2019 from me to you. I'd like to see my media colleagues do a little bit more introspection, and I wish that we wouldn't be so ego-centered. I find that we get so upset at politicians. What?
Larger than Andres. Larger than Andres.
We get so upset at politicians and we say, oh, that person has an ego, or they can't take criticism. And the minute someone says something about the media, oh, we
How
get
dare
upset.
you.
How dare you? There's validity sometimes in that critique, and so we need to be able to take it. It cuts both ways.
Good point. Thank you very much, folks. I have to tell you, this has been one of my best discussions for the year. All my other guests mad. No, but I think this has given the public an opportunity to really understand our perspective and where we come from and be able to dissect issues, even though it's a political show many times, but dissect issues without it being political. And that's that, you know, the jobs that we all do are so very important to the development of this country.
That's
so
a credit to you. So
as well.
thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for inviting us, Jerome.
Yes, thank you. My pleasure. You could leave something in the tip jar on the way out. I appreciate it. Yeah. So thank you so very much. We certainly hope that you have enjoyed our show tonight. Special thanks to my wonderful guest, Janelle Noel Ferguson of Eyewitness News. Continue to do well. Invite us to the anniversary party, okay? We'll be there, most definitely. Kyle Walkane of R News, Rogan Smith, radio host and Punch columnist. I also want to take this opportunity to thank you, our loyal audience, for continuing to support us each week. You have caused this show to soar to heights never imagined, and for that we are so very grateful. Thank you to the many guests who shared in this journey with us for the second year, and we look forward to sharing all new stories and discussions in the year ahead. So on behalf of my producer, technical staff, Merry Christmas to you all and a safe and prosperous New Year. We look forward to seeing you all in 2019. Our show returns to the air on January 10th. Once again, I'm your host, Jerome Sawyer. We'll see you in the new year right here on The Wrap.